So, something that I've noticed is when I'm talking to somebody new from HR or from a new project or anybody who's new looking at services, they're trying to basically find out if I'm qualified. What tools do I use? What's my background? Tell me about a time that you XYZ, right? A lot of those common interview questions happen over and over and over again. And although there's a lot of things you can do to prepare for that, especially if you're trying to reach out to somebody, a cold contact, it's helpful to get a lot of those lead qualifications just out of the way. A lot of things that are just be common questions and answers. And so I've messed around with this idea of a digital clone or digital avatar. I think it goes without saying, but your LinkedIn is super important. And one of the things about the LinkedIn is you've got your experience, you've got your education, you've got your volunteer work, and those are things that get used the most. And with that, what I did is I basically went through all these sections and started talking about all the different things that I've done and recorded that information a little bit more in depth as you kind of break down these smaller pieces and broke them down into actual files of useful information. That useful information was separated into the idea of taking volunteering and just elaborating on some examples, the job history, elaborating on specific projects and examples, education, etc. Those are the three primary things. And also doing simultaneously is making sure that I keep records so that I can go ahead and have versions that were saved on different dates so that as I recall or update this, I can continuously have information that gets updated with all the various variations over time. Now, take that a step further and you could end up just branching it. Could use it as a source through GitHub. Now that I'm thinking about this, not only that, but one thing I want to take a step further is the actual prompting process. So one of the things that I would want to be able to do is give specific information of what I want to do with that information. It's one thing to create a knowledge set. It's another to go ahead and build a prompt about how to interact with that knowledge set. And prompting is a lot more of an art and a lot more creative and a little bit of troubleshooting to kind of figure out the exact formatting to get the best result. And that's why I wanted to bring up this. This is a tool I found. Now, Prometheus doesn't have a best documentation across the board, and depending on how much I use it, I might end up actually just going ahead and making some tutorials myself. But with the ability to have different variations of wording and to reorder things and separate things down into blocks and items, it's a much better interface, as well as having actual ways of controlling the different chunks of data and putting them into areas. Same thing with different variations. Get an idea for token count and a whole bunch of other things. There's an affiliate link at the bottom, so be sure to use that. Having said that, what's going to happen is I can use all this information and then run through and give some yays and nays about various outputs that are to my liking or not to my liking, and then I can make adjustments over here on the raw input that's being put together and strung. On top of all of that, you can also obviously use all the different GPT options available. But having said that, what's also nice too is I can actually just export out the prompt, including all that information. By exporting out the prompt specifically like as a text file, then I can just go ahead and copy that and drop it into the actual web browser. And then I'm saving tokens if that's a concern, depending on what's going on with all the other stuff. So all of that combined, and what this allows me to do is take slowly but surely a one-stop shop location where I can have all this reference material that otherwise I'd have to reproduce. And then over time, I have plans of how I can make this even better and expound upon this. And then once you start attaching it to other web services and having it automate all the different software options, having it integrate into Google and having it integrate into other various APIs and using everything all together, you can start to basically run essentially like a whole team. You can your productivity and really outstretch your ability to achieve multiple, ventures all at once. And this is something that, has a benefit at the individual level, but also at the business level. You are just as confused as I was kind of going through all of this, then let me know and maybe I'll make some tutorials on it. But I gotta say, this is just a fantastic tool. It's a small team for the actual developers that are going on, and I'm still learning. I'm very new to this, but nonetheless, been very, very impressed so far with what it's able to accomplish. And the ones who are going to be able to take the most advantage of this are those who have AI literacy, those who are really much more on the back end coding side of the AI world. There's the people who are getting really in depth into the AI space, and those who just need a surface level understanding. Depending on the business you're running and the practical uses you need for AI, this might be overkill. But especially if you come from a coding background and you're able to understand the concept of taking very large problems and breaking them down into smaller items and then kind of experimenting, this is really more of the direction of how I can see a lot of the prompt engineering going in, because there is an art to the prompting process for these AIs to really give the outputs that we want to achieve, because obviously it's only as good as the input that's provided.